Okay, so let's start the class. We were discussing about checks that we will continue. So what is a check? It is defined under section 6, and then different types of checks that are mentioned in section 6 or somewhere or the other it is mentioned in NI Act. Then crossing of checks we discussed, and difference between bills of exchange and check. Now, these are some general provisions that would be applicable to all the three types of negotiable instruments. Whether it is promissory note, bills of exchange, or check, this would be applicable to all the three types of instruments. So it is regarding date of maturity that we discussed in last class, and also when it would be payable. Is it on demand, on presentment, or when? So now we know that negotiable instruments are what? They are transferable written documents, right? So negotiable instruments are a certain type of a written document that can be transferred from one person to another. Now, negotiation is defined under, so negotiation is defined under section 14, how it can be done, what is the process. So it says when a promissory note, bills of exchange, or check is transferred to any person. That means one person will transfer any of these instruments to another person by with an intention to make that person the holder of that instrument. That means if I am transferring one instrument to another person, I want to make that other person holder of that instrument. That means he can claim the money under that instrument. So in that case, it would be considered as negotiation. That means when the transfer is made with an intention to make the other person holder of it, it is called as negotiation. So it is defined under section 14. They are mainly asking for sections of these like important provisions. So try to remember it is section 14 that is talking about negotiation, and section 13 is providing for definition of the term negotiable instrument, what would be included in that. So negotiation can be done by two different ways. It is by way of endorsement or by way of delivery. Endorsement is when name of a person is written. It is not a bearer instrument that anyone who is holding that instrument can go and demand for the money, but someone's name is written. So in those cases, if we want to transfer it to someone else, what we will have to do is that we will have to put our signature, maybe mention name of the person to whom we want to transfer it, and then the process will be done. So it would be endorsement when name is written. And what is delivery? When name of any person is not written, it is a bearer instrument, then we can just deliver it to the person to whom we want to transfer it, and then the process will be done. Negotiation will complete. So endorsement is defined under section 15 that we already discussed, and also there are two different types of endorsement. It is mentioned under section 16. So there are two different modes of endorsement. One is in blank and one is in full. Blank is when the person is only putting his signature and mentioning like just pay to, then blank, and then his signature is mentioned. So then what happens is that it is in blank. He has not mentioned to whom it is to be done. But if he is mentioning name of the person to whom he wants to transfer his signature and everything, then it will be in full. Negotiation by delivery is mentioned under section 47. Just try to remember the sections for these provisions. It is under section 47 that negotiation by delivery is mentioned. When it is a bearer instrument, it can be simply delivered to the person and negotiation will complete. When it is endorsement, it is defined under section 14. What is negotiation by endorsement? It is when it is payable to order, then it would be negotiation by endorsement, that the person is making an order by putting his signature that the payment should be made to this particular person. Now we know that for endorsement there are two different types, in blank and in full. Now there can be conversion also, like any endorsement that is done in blank, it may be converted into full. That is mentioned under section 49. So what they can do is, for example, there is one particular negotiable instrument, an instrument is there where what happens is that it is transferred to another person. Okay, A was holding that instrument, he wants to transfer it to someone else. What he has done is that he has only put his signature, and he has not mentioned to whom payment is to be made, and he simply transferred it to B without mentioning B's name. Only with his signature he just transferred it to B. Now B wants to further transfer it to another person, C. So what he can do is that B can only write name of C on top of like A's signature, and the transfer will be done. So in that case, we can see that it is an endorsement in full. Why? Because we have mentioned name of C also. So that means if an endorsement is in blank, that may be converted in full also by mentioning name of the person to whom we want to like transfer the instrument. So these were some of the provisions relating to like instruments in general, the types of negotiation, how it can be done, what is endorsement in blank, in full, how it can be converted. Now, negotiable instruments can be classified on various grounds. Firstly, it is inland instrument and foreign instrument. So this part also we already discussed. What is inland instrument? It is defined under section 11. There should be two conditions. One is fixed, that it should be drawn or made in India. This is like a fixed condition that has to be fulfilled. And once this condition is fulfilled, we can like complete any of these two provisions. So these two are like optional. Any one of these two may be fulfilled. So when we fulfill two of these conditions, then it can be considered as an inland instrument. That it is drawn or made in India, it may be payable in India, or it may be drawn upon a person who is resident in India. Then it would be considered as an inland instrument. So these were some of the examples that a negotiable instrument is made in Bangalore and is drawn to someone who is resident anywhere in India as an inland instrument. So these are some of the examples of inland instrument, that any one of these two conditions has to be fulfilled, and this is the one which we need to fulfill. And then foreign instrument, it is defined under section 12. What is foreign instrument? Any such instrument not drawn or made payable shall be deemed to be a foreign instrument. That means any instrument where this first condition is not fulfilled, that would be considered as a foreign instrument. So a negotiable instrument made in UAE and payable in Delhi is an example of foreign instrument. Why? Because this is not made in India. So the first condition has to be fulfilled, drawn or made in India. If this condition is fulfilled, then we can look for the other condition, whether it is made payable in India or whether it is drawn upon a person who is resident in India. If any one of these are fulfilled, it would be inland. Otherwise, it would be again considered as a foreign instrument. Now this classification, these two classifications was based on the location where the instrument is made or where it is issued. There may be other types of instruments also based on the basis of payee and on the basis of payment. Now what is on the basis of payee? It may be bearer instrument or an order instrument. So we are not getting any proper definition of these classifications in the NI Act, but they are somewhere or the other provision, they are been mentioned that this is how a bearer instrument would be, this is what an order instrument would be. So what is bearer instrument? Where in case of check we see, right, that name of person is not written. So in case of check, if what happens is that name of this person was not written, Rahul Sharma, then it would be a bearer instrument, that it would be payable to the bearer. So this is what bearer instrument is, that when name of the person is not written, it would become a bearer instrument. But it can be applicable only in case of check. For promissory note and bills of exchange, RBI is not permitting that we can make a bearer instrument. It can be only in case of check that we can make a bearer instrument. And what is order instrument? Whose name is mentioned, that person will get the money. Name of a person is written, it may be by endorsement, it may be when making like bills of exchange also a person's name is written, it would be considered as an order instrument. So these two classifications are on the basis of pay to whom the payment would be made. on the basis of that, these two classifications are made: bearer instrument and order instrument. Next classification is on the basis of payment, how or when payment would be made. So there are again two different classifications. First is demand instrument and second is time instrument. So the name itself tells what it is. Demand instruments means these instruments are payable at site or payable on presentment. Check is always a demand instrument. So demand as in when we are demanding, at that time it would be payable. In case of promissory note or bills of exchange, if we are not mentioning any date or time frame when it will be paid, right? If we are not mentioning after 3 months you should make the payment, or on this particular date you should make the payment, if we are not mentioning anything like that, it would be considered as a demand instrument, that whenever the person demands for the money, by presenting that instrument, the payment has to be made. And in case of check, it is always a demand instrument. Once a check is issued, it will not be cleared or not be paid unless and until the person goes to the bank and deposits the check asking or demanding for the money. So check is always a demand instrument, but promissory note and bills of exchange may be a demand instrument if date or time frame is not written there. And what is time instrument? It is if the time is mentioned in the instrument, it will be time instrument. If we are mentioning after 3 months the payment has to be made, that means it is a time instrument. If we are mentioning after death of this particular person, payment has to be made. 15 days after death of this person, payment has to be made. If we are mentioning a specific date, in those cases it will be a time instrument. We are specifying the time when payment has to be made. So these were the various classifications of negotiable instruments. Okay, so now under section 26, it tells who all are capable of making, or like promissory note, bills of exchange or check, etc. So it says every person capable of contracting may bind himself and be bound by making, drawing, accepting, endorsement, delivery, negotiation of promissory note, bills of exchange or check. So basically negotiable instrument is also what? It is also a type of contract only, right? I am making a promise to pay a certain sum of money to one person. That means what? I am making a certain type of contract only with that person. I am agreeing to a certain condition. If I am issuing a bill, accepting a bills of exchange, then also it means I'm giving my consent to a certain type of contract only. In check also we can say it is also one type of contract only. We are making a contract with bank that this particular amount of payment has to be made to this person. So section 26 says that whoever is capable of making a contract, that particular person can make himself bound under any promissory note, bills of exchange or check. So basically it is saying that these instruments are also like one type of contract only, and the whatever like provisions are there in Indian Contract Act regarding the like eligibility of parties, same only would be applicable even in case of NI Act. So these were some of the provisions on the check and like normal other instruments also. So there are some questions, we can try to solve these questions. So what would be the first answer?
3.
Yeah, it is. 1 second. Okay. Crossing of checks can be of how many types?
3 types.
No, crossing of check is 2 types. See, we saw 3 types, but what happens? I'll tell you. Yeah. So see, that day also I told you that crossing of check is of 2 types only. It is generally and specially, section 123 and 124. In both the cases, this is like one condition only. In both the cases, this condition may be applicable, not negotiable. It is only to, like make the liability limited. So this condition may be applicable in both the cases, but crossing off check is of two types only, generally and specially. Generally just putting name, specially mentioning the bank also. And in both the cases, we can put this condition of not negotiable. And in that case, what happens is that the title that the other person would have to whom it is negotiated, it would not be a better title. Just to limit our liabilities, we can put this condition. But if we are asked how many types of crossings are there, it is two types, generally and specially. So answer would be the second one. It is two types. Next one.
Draw.
Yeah. And
C.
yeah, it can be A also, it can be C also. So any of A and C. It can be jointly also like made. Next one.
A bill of exchange contains unconditional undertaking.
That is an unconditional undertaking. No, sorry. It's not an undertaking. Bills of exchange would be what?
Order.
Yeah, bills of exchange would be order. But if it was promissory note, then in that case, it would be an undertaking that the person is making. So answer would be C, an unconditional order.
One is D, two is C.
One is D, two is
C. C. Bill of exchange. 2 is C.
Yeah.
4. Bill of exchange is section 5. Check is 6.
Yeah.
There's no 6 only in the options.
This should be section 6.
Holder
this should
is
be
8.
Section 6. Yeah. Holder is 8. Next one.
Holder in due course. Grace days is 3 days. So 1 is B.
Yeah.
Promissory note is unconditional undertaking.
Yeah.
Bill of exchange is order. Incurate is incomplete instrument.
Yeah.
And holder was section 9.
Yeah, section 9. So holder is section 8 to whom the instrument is initially made, and once it is transferred, then whoever is the holder, that person is called as holder in due course. That later on he becomes the holder. So in these kind of like cases, even if we do not know one option, then also it is fine. Other options are correct means we can guess. So holder is section 8, holder in due course is section 9 of NI. Next one.
Bank notes, currency notes are not called promissory notes.
Yeah, are not called promissory notes. So this is given in like NI Act itself, right? That bank notes and currency notes would not be considered as promissory notes or any type of instrument under Act. Next one.
Pay the person, it's B.
To whom the payment is directed to be paid. So we can select C because even if like he's a pay, his name is also mentioned in the instrument, right? For example, like any type of instrument only. Payer's name also would be written on the instrument. So this would be the better option to select, that his name is also mentioned in the instrument and also to whom payment is directed to be paid. Next one.
(22).
That is section 22. It talks about maturity also and also says there would be 3 days of grace period.
Generally is 123.
123. So 123 generally, 124 specially. Next one.
Is it 128?
No, it is 130. So because this is not a type of crossing, so it is not mentioned along with these other provisions. It is just a condition that we can put. It is 130 that defines what is not negotiable. Next one. This is, we are yet to read about it. Any idea this one?
It's 2 years. A 1 to 2.
It is. It's been changed imprisonment. Yeah, it was initially 1 year. Now it has been made 2 years. Next one.
3 months.
Yeah, it is 3 months. So initially it was 6 months. Now it is made 3 months. And also initially check bounce used to be a civil offense. Now it is made criminal. Now again there are like suggestions given that it should be made a civil offense again. But as of now, it is a criminal offense, 2 years fine, 2 years of imprisonment. So now there are a few more things to be discussed from NI Act. So basically these types of questions are only asked like section, these that simple part only. So now dishonor of negotiable instruments. What is dishonor? Dishonor means not fulfilling the conditions or not acting accordingly. So dishonor of negotiable instruments may be of two types. When it can be done, dishonor by non-acceptance. It is defined under section 91. And another type of dishonor is dishonor by non-payment. It is defined under section 92. So what is non-acceptance and non-payment? These are the provisions. Dishonor by non-acceptance. Non-acceptance means the person has to dishonor the check by not accepting it. The question of acceptance comes only in terms of which negotiable instrument. Only for one instrument we have the concept of giving acceptance, right? Which instrument is it?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Like only for one type of negotiable instrument we have the concept of giving acceptance. Which instrument we need acceptance?
Check.
No, it is bills of exchange. For check, what happens? I'm only issuing the check. That means there is no concept of acceptance. I'm only agreeing to it. Promissory note also, I'm only making the promise. So there is no concept of acceptance. But in bills of exchange, what happens is that someone else is giving me an order that I should make a payment of certain sum of money to someone. So in that case, my acceptance would be needed to make it legally like enforceable. So what happens is that only in case of bills of exchange, there is a concept of acceptance. So this particular provision would be applicable only for bills of exchange, because there without acceptance, it cannot be a valid instrument. So dishonor by non-acceptance would be applicable only in terms of bills of exchange. When it may be done, if the drawee or So what happens, for example, one person A, he makes an bills of exchange. He issues a bills of exchange to B, ordering him to pay 50,000 rupees on 18th of July. So in this case, what happens is that A makes a bills of exchange against B, or giving him an order to pay 50,000 rupees on 18th of July. In case B do not accept that bills of exchange, then we can say that the bills of exchange is dishonored by non-acceptance. So this provision would be applicable only in case of bills of exchange where we need acceptance of the other person to make him legally liable under that particular instrument. So regarding non-acceptance, it would be only in case of bills of exchange where the person had a duty to give his acceptance, but he failed to do it. And also it can be applicable where the person whose acceptance was needed, he is incompetent to contract and provides for conditional acceptance. That means I'm giving him an order to pay 50,000 rupees. He said that, okay, fine, I will pay only 10,000 rupees. That means it is a conditional acceptance. Then also we would say that acceptance is not given, it is dishonored. If the person is not competent to contract, if the person is mentally not sound, the person is just saying something, then also we would say that it is dishonored by non-acceptance. The person was not capable of giving his acceptance. So it is mentioned under section 91 of the Act. And the another type of dishonor that is mentioned is under section 92. It is dishonor by non-payment. Non-payment means when it was due or when the payment was demanded. In that case, the person did not make the payment. So it would be dishonor by non-payment. A promissory note, bills of exchange or check is said to be dishonored by non-payment where the maker of the note, acceptor of the bill or drawee of the check makes default in payment upon being duly required to pay the same. So it can be applicable for all the three different types of instruments. A bills of exchange may be dishonored by not giving acceptance, or it may be dishonored when payment is asked for. And all the three instruments may be dishonored by non-payment. When the other person comes and presents the instrument and demands for money, when it is due, in any of those moments, if the person fails to make the payment, then it would be considered that it is dishonored by non-payment. Section 29. So these are the two different types of dishonor of negotiable instruments that we have. Section 91 is applicable only for bills of exchange, because only in bills of exchange we have the concept of giving acceptance. But section 92 would be applicable for all the three different types of instruments. It is dishonor by non-payment. Now the regarding check bounce. So this is one important section under this act. So it is penalty in case of dishonor of certain checks for insufficiency of funds in the accounts. So it is section 138 that talks about check bounce. So you should remember this section. It is section 138 that provides for check bounce. So it says dishonor of check for what? For insufficiency of funds in the account. When a person issues a check to discharge himself from any debt or liability. So if one person had to make, for example, one person had to make a payment of 50,000 rupees to B. So in order to clear himself from this particular debt, in order to make this amount of 50,000 rupees to B, what he has done is that he issues a check. A issues a check and gives it to B. But later on what happens is that when B demands for that amount of money, bank returns the check. Why? Because there was insufficient amount of fund maintained in that particular account. The account that A is holding, he is not having 50,000 rupees in his account. So the check was returned to B. It does not matter whether the amount was like, it may be just a few rupees less, or it may be just like he is having just like 100 rupees, he has issued a check of 50,000. In either case, it would be returned by the bank in case the amount is not sufficient to clear it. Or when, or maybe A has made an agreement with the bank that at one moment you cannot release more than 25,000 rupees. So there are certain limits that we can put in a bank. So what happens is that if he has put a limit on the bank that at one moment you cannot release more than 25,000 rupees, but he has issued a check of 50,000 rupees. In that case also, check would be returned and it would be considered as check bounce under section 138 only. So there are two conditions. Firstly, one person is not having enough money to clear the check. He has issued a check of 50,000, but he was not having 50,000 in his bank account. Check would be returned. The person was having more than 50,000 rupees, but he has given an order to the bank that you cannot release more than 25,000 rupees. So in that case also, the check would be returned. So in both the cases, we would say that it is check bounce under section 138. Is this part clear? What is check bounce and the two conditions?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the two conditions that we need under section 38, and the punishment is, it may extend up to 2 years. So remember the punishment, it is given under section 138. It is imprisonment that may extend to 2 years, or with fine which may extend to twice the amount of check, or with both. So this is the punishment given under section 138. But even if the person has fulfilled these two conditions, it would be considered as the offense of check bounce only when these conditions are fulfilled. So there are few more conditions that has to be fulfilled. This is the general situation, that the person is not having sufficient account, like sufficient fund in his account, or he has given a direction to the bank that this much amount only you can release at one moment. So if those two conditions are fulfilled, then we will look into these other conditions. Firstly, the check has to be like deposited within the validity period. If the check was deposited after like 5 months from the date of maturity, then the person cannot file a case of check bounce because it was not his fault, right? So it has to be submitted within the period of validity only. Secondly, the holder serves a notice to the person. So when the check is returned by the bank, the person will have to serve a notice within 30 days. Within 30 days, informing the person regarding the unpaid check. So he has to inform that because of insufficient fund in your account, this particular check was returned to me from the bank. So he can inform the person and ask for the money. The drawer fails to make payment within 15 days of receipt of such notice. So firstly, what he has to do, he has to submit it within the period of validity, that is 3 months. If it was submitted within the validity period and it was returned to him, what he can do is that he can inform the person regarding the check bounce, and he can say that, like he can ask for the money within 30 days, he can serve a notice to the person informing about the situation. And from the date of receiving that notice, within 15 days, he can make payment. If he completes all of these provisions, then we cannot say it is a check bounce case. The person will not go and file a case. Why? Because the person has already cleared the payment within this 15 days of time that was given. So before this 15 days, the person cannot go and file a case for check bounce. Why? Because the other person also has to be given a time limit to like make the payment or do whatever he wants to do. So this is the condition. And if within 15 days he makes partial payment, for example, the total payment was 50,000, what he has done is that he made, for example, 30,000 payment within 15 days. Then also it will be considered that it is a check bounce case because the person has not paid the amount completely. So he cannot just make a partial payment and then, you know, like release himself from the obligation. So he will still be liable under law. So this is the provision regarding check bounce. It is section 138 that talks about dishonor of check. It can be in two conditions. person is not having sufficient fund in his bank, or he has given a direction to the bank not to release above a certain amount of money. Punishment is 2 years with fine that may extend up to like twice the amount of check, or with both. Even after these two conditions are fulfilled, these three conditions has to be seen: that the person deposited the check within the validity period, that he informed the person within 30 days by serving a notice regarding the dishonor of check, and that within 15 days the person failed to make the payment or inform anything regarding it. So in that case, the person can file a case under section 138 of the Act. Now, when a person files a case under 138, it cannot be a defense that the person just goes to the court and says that I was not even expecting that this would happen. So it says it shall not be a defense in prosecution of an offense under section 138 that he had no reason to believe when he issued the check that the check may be dishonored on presentment for the reasons stated in this section. So what the person cannot do, for example, the person, he issued a check of 50,000 rupees, and later on, because of this lockdown and all this situation, what happened is that he had to like use all the funds that he had in his bank account. So for example, he was having 70,000 in his bank account, but because of this lockdown situation and everything, he was using money from this 70,000, and no profit, he was not making any other profit. So that means he was just using money from this account, and the amount became finally 40,000 rupees when the check was deposited and it was returned by bank saying that you are not having sufficient amount. So the person cannot say that I was having 70,000 rupees in my bank account, so I was not even thinking that the check would be returned or something like that. It cannot be a defense in either case. Or the person cannot say that I forgot that I gave a direction to the bank that you cannot release more than 25,000 or something like that. So that cannot be a defense, because like this act has already given enough scope to the person to correct his mistakes, right? There is a time limit that a notice should be given. After that also, within 15 days he can make the payment, he can issue a new check or things like that. So after that, if a case is filed under section 138, the person cannot just go to the court and say that I was not even expecting that this would happen. So he cannot do like that. So this section number is important, that it is section 138, talking about check bounce and the punishment. And also try to remember the time limit, that it is within 30 days he has to serve a notice. So this is the provision, penal provision, the punishment, and what is not a defense. So this is saying, this particular provision is mainly saying that it is within 1 month from date on which the cause of action arises. So that basically means that whatever is mentioned under section 138, these conditions has to be fulfilled. That the person is making a notice, and then 15 days time is given to the person. So such complaint may be is made within 1 month of the date on which cause of action arises. And who is having power to decide on this matter? It is Metropolitan Magistrate or Judicial Magistrate of the first class only who can handle these cases. And it should be within 1 month of the date on which the cause of action arises. The complainant, if the complainant can prove that he was having like sufficient reasons for not filing a case within this 1 month, then some amount of relaxation may also be permitted by the court. So just remember the court where this particular case may be filed. It is Metropolitan Magistrate or Judicial Magistrate of the first class. Then banker slip prima facie evidence of certain facts. The court shall, in respect of every proceeding under this particular chapter, on production of banker slip or memo thereof, official mark mentioning the check has been dishonored, presume the fact of eligible. So what happens when a check is returned to the person? Bank will issue a slip also. So they will also mention the date when this particular check has been returned, and also what they will mention is that they will mention the reason, whether it was because of insufficient funds in the account, whether because the bank was not permitted to release that much money, or what the issue is. Bank will mention the reason also. Bank will also mention the date when the check is returned. So that particular banker slip would be considered as what? It would be considered as a prima facie case of the check being dishonored. So that would be also given along with the case. So when the case is filed, that particular like notice which is served to the person, that notice is also given, and also bankers that slip is also given, which is considered as a prima facie evidence for this particular case. So this section is not important, just I mentioned it. So 147 is section 138 is important that you can remember from this part. And also name of the court where this particular case may be filed, and then offenses to be compoundable. So remember this also, it is section 147 that says that these particular cases are compoundable, notwithstanding anything contained under CRPC. Every offense punishable under this act shall be compoundable. So rather than wasting time of the court, it is better that parties settle the matter within themselves and then think for any other alternate ways of payment. So this is compoundable. So remember this section 147, then 138, and also name of the court, that is this Metropolitan Magistrate and Judicial Magistrate of first class. So this part is regarding dishonor of instruments. So this much is only what is important from NI Act and also the questions that we have seen. So there are few more questions that we will see. And then these are from like previous year question papers. So what you can do is that apart from reading these provisions and this particular part, so whatever was important from NI Act, I have included everything in this particular document. So you can read this, and also the important like sections you can remember. For example, which section defines promissory note, bills of exchange, check, negotiable instrument, that those sections you can like try to remember, and also the other provisions, right? Like the basic differences, that date when it was enacted, when it came into force, then types of crossing, those sections, types of checks you should know, and also these like some random sections that I have mentioned here: date of maturity, grace period, endorsement is full, blank, foreign instrument, inland instrument. So these are the important provisions from this particular act for judiciary. So let's see the questions that we have, remaining questions. Okay. So what would be the answer for these questions?
Bearer check.
Bearer
is where the name is not mentioned. So is it general or open? So
yeah,
general.
when name is not mentioned.
So it's general. It's open.
It would be open. Whoever is submitting it, to that person only payment has to be made. So it would be open. But in case of promissory note and bills of exchange, we cannot. It cannot be a bearer instrument because the RBI is not giving permission for that. It can be only for currency notes that RBI would make it a bearer instrument. Next one.
A check shall be done. On addition of the name of the banker.
Yeah, on addition of name of banker. So when name of bank is mentioned, it would be considered as a cross check. And just drawing two lines parallel would be just crossing of check.
Okay.
Next one.
Number B.
Which of the following is not? Yeah, it is postal order and currency note. So here also under the act, they have not specifically mentioned regarding postal order, but we know that currency note is specifically mentioned. So accordingly, we can select that option would be B, postal order currency note.
C.
Next
I mean B.
is-
None of the above.
Holder in due course is someone who, for consideration, gets the possession of the property.
Holder in due course would be who for consideration became the possessor of promissory note. Yes. Who, what happens is that holder in due course is not the originally who was to whom it was given, but later on for some consideration he that particular instrument was transferred to him. So it may be applicable for other types of instruments also, but amongst these, this is only the proper one, but it is not like it's only applicable from promissory note. So who for consideration became the possession? Answer would be B. Next one.
Both A and B.
Yeah, it may be on payment also, on acceptance also. It cannot be on endorsement. Endorsement basically what it basically is, we are giving it to someone else, it is transferring. So at that moment we are doing it intentionally, there cannot be this honor. So it will be both A and B. So these are some questions from 2015-16 prelims.
Okay. $147.
Yeah, it is section 147 of the NI Act that says, irrespective of anything mentioned under CRPC, the offences under NI Act would be compoundable.
D.
Is defined under section 5 of the NI Act here. Next one.
I think all of the above.
Yeah, it would be all of the above only. Even if the signature is not matching, in that case also bank will refuse. And these two conditions are already mentioned under section 138. So it would be all of the above.
It's C.
Yeah, I promise to pay Raju 3,000 after 15 days of death of A. Yes. So in this case, that is sorted, but whether a person would get 60% or not is not sorted. Whether the person would appear for that exam or not, that is also not sorted. And here the amount itself is not clearly mentioned. It may be 5,000, it may be 7,000. So answer.
It's unconditional.
Unconditional.
Yeah, it is unconditional. So for promissory note, it is always an undertaking, but for bills of exchange, it would be an order. And for check, it would be like an order only to pay on demand. So any doubts on the NI Act? These are the like important provisions from NI Act that I have seen being asked on like exams. Okay, so I also have like 2-3 more question papers. I will check the questions asked for NI Act and we'll try to solve that in next part. So if this part is clear, we can continue with the specific relief act and also discuss the remaining questions that were being asked in the last papers. Okay. Okay, then so we are ending this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.